Welcome to 21st Century Dating Decoded. We're making modern love simple. Get ready to decode your love life. Brought to you by Speed Mingle.
So I want you to imagine you've basically spent the last hour getting ready for a date.
Right, you've picked out the perfect outfit, maybe ironed a shirt.
Exactly. You are, feeling good. You've psyched yourself up in the mirror.
Yeah.
And you are driving to the venue feeling that that little butterfly flutter of anticipation.
Oh yeah, the pre-date nerves, the good kind.
Right. So you walk through the doors and you're hoping for this cinematic moment, where you lock eyes with someone across the room.
Cue the romantic music.
But instead of romance, you are immediately confronted by a folding table.
Ugh, just the worst vibe.
Yeah, a folding table, a very frustrated person holding a clipboard, and get this, a loud referee's whistle.
Oh man, just immediate dread.
Right. Suddenly, your blood pressure just spikes because you realize you aren't walking into a fun mixer. You've essentially just stepped into, the emotional equivalent of the TSA security line at the airport.
It honestly completely drains the blood from your face just thinking about it.
Yeah.
I mean, you're practically looking around for those gray plastic bins to, put your shoes in.
That is exactly the vibe we are looking at today. Welcome to our deep dive. We are jumping into a really massive stack of sources today.
Yeah, a huge variety of materials for this one.
We've got everything from these hyper-local Reddit threads, deep dive sociological analyses, and even event pages on Meetup and Eventbrite.
All centered around the dating scene in Birmingham, Alabama.
Right. But, this isn't just about Birmingham. This is really about a fundamental breaking point in how we, try to meet people in the real world.
Absolutely. It's a universal problem right now.
Our sources argue that legacy speed dating has literally become the TSA line of human connection.
Which is such a perfect analogy.
It really is. So our mission today is figuring out how we got to this point of industrialized intimacy and how a totally new wave of events is trying to put the sizzle back into your social life.
I mean, the contrast between what people actually want and what they're getting at these events it's just staggering.
Oh, totally.
When sociologists monitor these conventional speed dating events, they note that the physical posture of the attendees, as they walk in, it actually mirrors the tense, guarded body language of passengers approaching an airport security checkpoint.
Wait, really? The exact same body language?
Yeah, they aren't excited. They are bracing for an ordeal. They're stiff. They're anxious.
Well, you feel it the second you walk into the back room of some brewery. Our sources document this immediate administrative coldness.
Right.
The very first thing you have to do is surrender your autonomy to the person with the clipboard.
Yep. The clipboard is king.
They check your name off a roster like you're some sort of logistical payload, and then they slap a generic paper name tag on your chest.
Which is it's an incredibly jarring way to introduce yourself to a room full of strangers.
It just feels so corporate.
Think about how human beings naturally build trust, right? In a normal setting, you reveal details about yourself gradually.
Yeah, you feel it out.
Exactly. You read the room, you assess mutual comfort, and you share your identity on your own terms.
Yeah.
But at these events, you were just instantly flattened.
You're just a name on a sticker.
And the organizers assign you to what the sociologists literally refer to as, and this is a quote, a demographic holding pen.
Oh, wow. A holding pen. It sounds like livestock management.
It kind of is, structurally.
If you're listening to this and wondering, why on earth any event planner would purposefully design such a sterile, uncomfortable experience for adults, I was wondering the exact same thing.
Right. Why make it so awful?
It feels so counterintuitive. Why make it feel like a bureaucratic processing center?
Well, it really just comes down to raw economics.
Like venue costs.
Yeah. The friction you are feeling isn't an accident. It is a byproduct of venue overhead. These legacy operators, they're trying to maximize ticket revenue just to cover the cost of renting out that back room at the brewery.
So they just need bodies in the room.
Exactly. To hit those margins, they have to cast artificially broad nets.
Meaning they just shove as many people into the space as possible, regardless of who they actually are or if they're compatible.
Right. And the sources point to a really glaring example of this at some suburban venues.
Oh, the Hoover example.
Yeah. Specifically, they looked at events held at Brock's Gap Brewing Company down in Hoover.
Okay.
The organizers there notoriously lumped singles spanning an 18-year age gap into a single rotational pool.
18 years.
We are talking ages 28 to 46, all sitting at the exact same tables, rotating through the same dates.
An 18-year age gap in a 5-minute speed date? That is just wild to me.
It's massive.
I mean, the life stage of a 28-year-old and a 46-year-old are practically different universes.
Completely different priorities.
Right. The 28-year-old's probably, trying to figure out if they want to move to a new city for a promotion or going to music festivals.
And the 46-year-old might be figuring out custody schedules for their teenagers or planning for a mortgage payoff.
It completely collapses all of those distinct generational touchstones. You lose any shared cultural references.
Or even basic relational goals. But the legacy model forces them into the exact same holding pen, literally just to fill chairs and sell tickets.
And then, the actual event starts, and the TSA metaphor becomes so literal.
Here comes the whistle.
Yes, you sit down, someone blows a literal whistle, and you are immediately subjected to what the sources call the verbal resume.
The verbal resume. It is the conversational equivalent of a metal detector wand.
That is such a good way to put it. You have exactly 3 minutes, and it's just this rapid-fire interrogation.
What do you do?
Where do you live?
What's your zip code?
You own or rent? You are just frantically exchanging data points under the intense pressure of a ticking timer.
It's exhausting.
But hang on, I need to look at this from the attendees' perspective for a second, because we know everyone is completely burnt out on dating apps.
Oh, absolutely. The digital fatigue is real.
The swiping, the ghosting, the weird messages, it's making people miserable. So if you are that exhausted by the digital world, wouldn't, any structured in-person event feel like a relief?
You'd think so.
Right. Even with the clipboard and the whistle, you are at least guaranteed to have a physical human being sit across from you. Doesn't that count for something?
Well, you would think so, but that assumes human beings are entirely rational actors who just want a logistical solution to their loneliness.
Okay, fair. We are definitely not rational.
We aren't. It completely ignores the psychological reality of the environment that's being created. People do desperately want to get off the apps.
Right.
But when you enforce infantile behavioral controls on anxious adults, you don't just kill the romance.
What does that do?
You actually create a highly unstable environment that breeds chaos.
Because you've stripped away their autonomy.
Exactly. High-density social settings require rigorous boundary management. If you don't have a thoughtful architecture to protect people's psychological safety, physical proximity devolves very, very quickly.
And the sources gave us a deeply uncomfortable, highly specific story to prove exactly how fast that devolution happens.
Oh, the Reddit story.
Yeah, there is a documented account from a Birmingham Reddit thread posted by a user named Servano7352. And, if you think a bad date is just someone talking too much about their ex, you really need to hear this.
It is a perfect case study in total boundary collapse.
So this user is at one of these legacy events in Hoover. They are sitting at their numbered table, just waiting for the opening whistle to blow.
So the event hasn't even officially started yet.
Has not even started. And a heavily intoxicated participant across the table decides to completely ignore every established social norm.
It's so cringe-inducing.
She leans entirely across the table, licks this complete stranger's ear, and then grabs his upper thigh.
Which is horrifying.
Absolutely horrifying.
And it immediately begs the question of how a theoretically organized event spirals into that level of transgressive behavior before it even begins.
Yeah, how does that even happen?
Well, behavioral science actually has a name for this mechanism. It's called psychological reactance.
Break that down for us, because on the surface, it just sounds like someone had way too many margaritas before showing up.
The alcohol is definitely a catalyst, but the root cause is the environment itself. Psychological reactance occurs when individuals feel their personal agency is being constrained by arbitrary rules.
Okay, so it's a rebellion thing.
Right. Imagine you see a sign that says, "Do not touch the wet paint."
You immediately have an overwhelming urge to touch it.
Just to prove you can. You want to reclaim your agency. Now, apply that to a dating event. You are an adult, but you are being commanded to speak, commanded to stop, commanded to stand up, and commanded to rotate by a referee's whistle.
Wow, you're being treated like a child in a middle school gym class.
Exactly. Your baseline impulse control degrades because you feel trapped in this infantile, highly controlled system.
So people push back against it.
Yes. People will unconsciously, or sometimes very consciously, act out transgressively just to reclaim a sense of personal control.
So you take a room full of people who are already, socially anxious, you strip them of their autonomy, you hand them alcohol, and then you blow a whistle at them.
It's a recipe for disaster.
It's a pressure cooker with a completely broken release valve.
And we can actually measure that pressure biologically.
Really? How so?
But the legacy speed dating format relies heavily on immediate face-to-face match requests at the end of the night. or at the end of the rotation. You are forced to look at the person and essentially say, do you want to see me again?
Which means you are also exposed to immediate face-to-face rejection.
And that triggers an acute biological stress response.
The fight or flight thing.
Exactly. When you face public rejection in front of your peers, your body releases a massive cortisol spike.
Which is the primary stress hormone. So your body is reacting like a tiger just walked into the room, but it's actually just, a guy named Brad telling you he doesn't want to get coffee.
Because the human brain is wired to view social rejection as a literal survival threat. Back in our evolutionary history, getting kicked out of the tribe meant death.
Right. So the legacy model basically maximizes interpersonal friction, spikes everyone's stress hormones, and practically encourages boundary-breaking behavior just to cope with all these rigid rules.
It's fundamentally broken. It's not just annoying. It is actively hostile to human connection.
And this brings us to the pivot, right? Because the singles market in Birmingham realized the clipboard and whistle model was failing spectacularly, and they demanded an antidote.
Which forced a rapid paradigm shift from organizers who actually, understand human psychology.
The sources refer to this shift as the Speed Mingle Modern Paradigm.
Yes.
And to really grasp how completely different this is from the TSA line, we're going to look at a very specific event coming up in the sources.
I love this example.
Yeah, so on August 4th, 2026, from 6:45 p.m. to 9:00 p.m. at Cahaba Brewing Company, there is an event called the Summer Sizzle Speed Mingle.
The branding itself is a direct response to the fatigue we just discussed.
They literally want to put the sizzle back into it.
Right. They are promising to put the sizzle back into local social lives. They are ripping out the sterile holding pen and replacing it with an elevated, curated mixer.
So you don't just walk into a back room and get handed a paper name tag.
Not at all.
You are greeted with signature cocktails, premium mocktails, and a vibe that feels like an actual party.
It's about setting the stage.
But they aren't just changing the lighting and the drinks, are they? They are fundamentally rewiring the economics of the event to ensure psychological safety.
And that rewiring starts with how you get in the door.
Okay, walk me through that.
Think about one of the most chronic problems with casual, free meetups in the dating world. What is it?
The flakeout rate. Oh, absolutely.
Exactly.
If you RSVP to a free event on Facebook, there is absolutely nothing stopping you from bailing at 6:00 p.m. because your couch is comfortable and it's raining outside.
Right. There is zero friction to abandoning the commitment.
Yeah.
Speed Mingle solves this by utilizing a tiered pricing model.
Like early bird tickets.
Yeah. Tickets start at an early bird rate of $20.99, and they scale up to a day of price of $41.69.
Which, I mean, some people might complain about. They might look at that and think, why should I pay over $40 to stand in a brewery when I can go to a brewery for free?
But the organizers aren't just trying to extract revenue. That price point is a structural mechanism.
It's a filter.
Yes, it locks in the headcount.
Because if you drop $40, you are showing up. You have skin in the game.
You show up, and crucially, because people show up, the organizers can guarantee optimal matching ratios.
Ah, that makes sense.
They know exactly how many men and women or whatever demographics they're catering to will actually be in that room. It eliminates the chaos of overbooking and the total deflation of walking into an empty venue.
So they've fixed the flaky attendance problem.
They have.
But I'm looking at this whole modern paradigm concept, and I'm a little confused by the method. Well, if singles are running away from dating apps because they are sick of screens, sick of algorithms, sick of digital fatigue, how does a company that relies heavily on tech actually fix the real-life experience?
It seems like a paradox, doesn't it?
Yeah. Do they confiscate everyone's phone at the door at Cahaba Brewing to force them to talk to each other?
It's a great question because the instinct is to assume technology is the enemy of presence. But Speed Mingle takes a counterintuitive approach. They don't ban your phone.
Okay.
They use it to build what the sources call a digital scaffold.
A digital scaffold. That implies it's supporting the structure from the outside unseen.
Precisely. The core strategy here is bifurcating or splitting the dating journey into two completely separate halves.
Administrative versus the actual date.
Exactly. They use a proprietary web application called SmartSync. This app handles every single logistical headache, every administrative task, and every safety protocol completely behind the scenes.
So the app basically holds the clipboard, not a human being?
Yes. The technology absorbs all the friction, leaving the physical space completely open for actual chemistry and presence. And the very first thing this digital scaffold does is enforce a strict layer of anonymity.
This is one of my favorite details in the entire stack of research.
It's so smart.
When you go to this Summer Sizzle event, the explicit exchange of last names, telephone numbers, workplace details, or social media handles is strictly prohibited at the venue.
It's banned.
You are only allowed to use a digital handle or your first name.
Think about the modern dating reflex, right? When you meet someone new at a bar, what is the very first thing you do the moment they go to the bathroom or turn their back?
Oh, I pull out my phone and I do a deep dive.
We all do it.
I find their LinkedIn to see their career trajectory. I audit their Instagram to see if their aesthetic matches mine. I check to see who they follow to guess their political leanings. I essentially run a covert background check.
Exactly. But that reflex immediately yanks you out of the present moment.
Yeah, I'm not in the room anymore.
You stop interacting with the human being in front of you, and you start interacting with their digital ghost.
Oh, that's deep. Their digital ghost.
By mandating anonymity, SmartSync prevents that real-time social media audit. You cannot look them up because you simply don't have their last name. You are forced to remain engaged with the actual person sitting at Cahaba Brewing.
And that enforced anonymity acts as a shield, which leads directly into the crown jewel of the Speed Mingle system.
The digital bouncer.
The sources refer to it constantly. The digital bouncer. Explain that to me.
The digital bouncer is an asynchronous post-event match engine.
Okay, in plain English, how does that change my night?
It means that you are explicitly forbidden from asking anyone for a date while you are physically in the building.
Wait, really?
Yes, you cannot ask for a phone number. You cannot pitch a coffee date for next week.
You literally aren't allowed to make the ask face-to-face.
Correct. Instead, you pull out your phone, open the SmartSync app, and discreetly log your vibe on the person you just talked to.
Oh, I see.
The system holds onto that data and defers all match calculations until after the event is entirely over and everyone has driven home.
So if there's a mutual match, you get a notification later that night.
Exactly. Secure communication channels are only unlocked if both parties explicitly confirm interest from the safety of their own homes.
But, and I have to push back here, doesn't that neuter the romance a little bit?
It sounds like it would.
Right. If you are having this incredible, sparkling conversation with someone at the brewery and the chemistry is off the charts, shouldn't you be allowed to just say, hey, let me get your number? Doesn't banning that natural progression feel a little sterile?
I completely understand why it sounds restrictive, but you have to look at the neurology of rejection that we talked about earlier.
The cortisol spike.
Right. Remember how the brain processes social rejection along the exact same neural pathways as physical pain?
Yes, the survival threat.
When you are sitting across from someone, trying to figure out how to ask for their number, or worse, trying to figure out how to politely reject them without making a scene, your brain is in a state of high alert.
Oh, yeah. You're just doing mental gymnastics.
You aren't enjoying the conversation. You are doing threat assessment. The digital bouncer eliminates that threat entirely.
Ah. Because you know with absolute certainty that you aren't going to be put on the spot, you can actually relax.
It empowers participants to be radically authentic.
That is fascinating.
The fear of awkwardness is just gone. You don't have to spend the last 3 minutes of a great chat plotting your exit strategy. You are freed from the performative anxiety of closing the deal.
Which, ironically, makes you far more attractive and present.
Exactly.
That makes total sense. You've removed the threat. And Speed Mingle takes that threat removal a step further by reclaiming something I didn't even realize was under attack at these events.
Visual autonomy.
Yes, the no photo guarantee. This is a massive differentiator in the Birmingham market, according to the sources.
It really is, especially when you compare it to the legacy operators.
The sources single out some of the regional groups here. They mention the IYKK series, the If You Know, You Know events.
Right.
Apparently, it is standard practice for those organizers to bury broad legal disclaimers in the ticket terms. So when you walk in, you are quietly consenting to let them harvest candid photos of you to use for their social media marketing.
It's so invasive. You think you are going on a private date, but you are actually acting as an unpaid extra in an Instagram reel for the venue's marketing team.
But Speed Mingle has a zero tolerance policy. Strict, no photos taken or posted rules. If you pull your camera out to film the room, you are shut down.
Which is an incredible luxury in a world governed by pervasive digital tracking. If you are at a mixer and you notice a professional photographer roaming the room, how does your behavior change?
I mean, I instantly tense up.
We all do.
I suck in my stomach, I check my posture, I make sure I look appropriately engaged but not desperate. I basically start performing.
You start performing for the camera, which means you stop connecting with the person you were talking to.
Right.
The no-photo guarantee strips away that performative digital posturing, but it also serves a very practical protective function. It guards against unwanted digital sleuthing.
Oh, like people finding out you're there.
Yes,
Yeah.
because not everyone wants their entire social circle or their boss or their ex-partner to know they were trying to meet singles on a Tuesday night at a brewery.
Exactly. By entirely removing the threat of the camera, the organizers cultivate a baseline of psychological safety.
And when people feel safe, they drop their guard. They allow themselves to be genuinely vulnerable.
And vulnerability is the absolute prerequisite for real chemistry.
It is the only way it happens.
Okay, so let's summarize where we are in this new paradigm. We've eliminated the clipboard and the holding pen.
Yeah.
We've used the digital bouncer to remove the physical pain of face-to-face rejection. And we've secured visual privacy with the no-photo rule. We have built the perfect, safe environment. But you still have two anxious strangers sitting at a table who have to actually talk to each other without falling back into the "what's your zip code" interrogation.
Right, the awkward silence is still a threat.
How do they solve the conversational friction?
They solve it by introducing a structural concept known as parallel play.
Parallel play, like toddlers playing next to each other with blocks.
It sounds funny, but it's rooted in the exact same psychological principle.
Huh.
Speed Mingle uses a proprietary framework they call the 52 plus 2 cards.
So it's a literal deck of cards.
It's a curated deck of physical cards sitting on the table between you. And instead of asking for your resume, the prompts focus on unconventional things.
Like what?
Your sense of humor, your core values, your worldview. Things that actually matter.
But how does a card fix the awkwardness?
The genius of the cards isn't just the questions themselves, it's the physical mechanics of how they change the interaction.
What do you mean?
Well, if you are sitting across from a complete stranger trying to maintain prolonged, direct eye contact, your brain actually registers that as mildly threatening. It's an aggressive posture in the animal kingdom.
Oh, totally. You feel like a suspect in a police interrogation room. You're sweating, you're staring into their soul, desperately trying to pull a witty comment out of thin air.
Exactly. But when you place a deck of cards on the table, you instantly break that tension.
Because you look away.
You direct your joint attention toward a mutual activity. You are no longer staring intensely at each other. You are both looking down at the prompt.
It's like when you go for a drive with someone and it's so much easier to have a deep conversation because you are both looking out the windshield instead of staring at each other.
That is a perfect analogy.
The cards act like a conversational co-pilot.
You are sharing the cognitive load. You don't have to carry the burden of inventing the topic, which drastically lowers your threat response.
So you can just focus on the person.
Yes. You can focus entirely on how the other person answers. You can listen to their tone, appreciate their humor, and watch their micro-expressions, because the friction of initiating the topic has been outsourced to the card.
It is a beautifully engineered system. The tech-enabled safety of Speed Mingle is a massive leap forward.
It really is a game changer for Birmingham.
But if you're listening to this and thinking, okay, apps and cards are great, but what if I want something a little more active? The sources show that the local market has other incredibly clever ways of bypassing the TSA line.
Yeah, they really are getting creative.
Let's talk about gamification.
Gamification completely shifts the psychological weight of the approach.
The sources highlight these lock-in key parties, specifically mentioning events hosted at Fairway Social.
Oh, I find these fascinating.
The concept sounds like a gimmick at first, but the psychology is actually rock solid. When you walk in, every woman is handed a physical padlock, and every man is handed a key. And your only objective is to walk around the room and see if your key opens someone's lock. If it does, you get raffle tickets for prizes.
It reframes the entire nature of the interaction. Why is it so terrifying to walk up to a stranger in a bar and say hello?
Because your intention is entirely laid bare. You are walking up to them to ask for romantic validation.
Exactly.
You are essentially saying, I have evaluated you from afar, I find you attractive, and I am now risking my ego to see if you feel the same way.
The vulnerability is immense.
Yeah.
It's a huge emotional risk. But gamification completely alters those emotional stakes.
How so?
When you walk up to someone with a physical key in your hand, you are no longer a vulnerable individual making a romantic advance. You are a player in a game attempting to solve a mechanical puzzle.
Oh, that's clever.
Ah,
There's a fantastic testimonial in the research from a guy named Raul from Albany that perfectly captures this feeling.
yes, Raul's account is great.
He attended one of these lock and key events, and he points out that the physical prop completely eliminates the burden of the opening line.
Raul's insight is spot on. You don't need to stand in the corner sweating, trying to think of a clever or charming icebreaker. The prop does the heavy lifting for you.
It's a literal interpersonal bridge. You walk up, and the initial focus isn't on deep eye contact. You are both looking at your hands, testing the hardware.
It gives you an immediate, tangible reason to interact.
Raul points out the best part. It gives you a built-in, completely polite excuse to walk away.
This is crucial for boundary management.
Right. If you start talking to someone and immediately realize there is zero spark, you don't have to invent a fake excuse about needing to use the restroom or grabbing another drink.
You just say, yeah, the key didn't fit. Good luck out there. And you smoothly transition to the next person. You never get trapped in an awkward conversation.
It is an elegant exit strategy. When you know you have an easy out, the anxiety of initiating the conversation drops to almost zero.
Because the stakes are so low.
So we have digital bouncers, we have physical lock and key props. But the deep dive into our sources also shows how organizers are taking these psychological tools and tailoring them for highly specific demographics.
Yes, the niche targeting.
I want to look at senior speed dating because this actually blew my mind. The sources detail events run by an organizer named Arlene at Skyline Village.
It's a brilliant adaptation of the model.
When we look at legacy speed dating, the primary complaint is almost always the time constraint. 5 minutes feels brutally rushed and artificial when you are 25.
Right, it feels like an interrogation.
But for the seniors at Skyline Village, the dynamic is entirely reversed. For them, the 5-minute limit is marketed as the ultimate feature, not a flaw. Why is that?
To understand the shift, we have to look at developmental psychology, specifically Erikson's stages of psychosocial development.
Okay, lay it on me.
Erikson posited that late adulthood is characterized by a high degree of self-actualization and a deeply refined sense of identity.
Meaning they aren't trying on different personalities. A 7-year-old knows exactly who they are, what their values are, and what they will not tolerate.
Precisely. They aren't playing the performative games of their 20s. They possess a wealth of lived experience.
You know what works for them.
They do not need a 3-hour dinner date to figure out if someone shares their foundational worldview or if they have a compatible vibe. They can gauge that in about 60 seconds.
So making them sit there for 5 minutes isn't rushing them. It's actually an efficiency hack.
It is a profound respect for their time and their emotional energy. The sources highlight that single seniors often battle significant isolation.
Which is heartbreaking.
So Arlene's event at Skyline Village provides this beautiful environment, views of downtown Birmingham, appetizers, a safe space to mingle. But it keeps the stakes incredibly manageable.
Right. The worst case scenario is that you spend a lovely afternoon eating appetizers, looking at the city skyline, and maybe making a few platonic friends to go to community events with. The best case scenario is a romantic spark. But either way, you aren't trapped on a painful, drawn-out date with someone you knew wasn't right for you in the first minute.
It's a masterclass in understanding your demographic, and that targeted approach aligns perfectly with the final trend we are seeing in the Birmingham market.
Which is?
Niche filtering and activity-based tracks.
Yes, the hyper-niche events. When the broad catch-all TSA line fails, people retreat to specific filters.
Because it saves time.
The sources detail a December 15th, 2025 event branded specifically as Christian IYKYK speed dating. It's targeted at the 20s and 30s demographic, and it's hosted at Dave & Buster's.
The ideological pre-filtering here is doing the exact same job as the digital bouncer or the 52+2 cards. It is removing friction.
Because if faith is central to your life, you usually have to spend the first 3 dates subtly probing to figure out if this new person shares your worldview without coming on too strong.
Right, it's a delicate dance.
But if you walk into a specifically branded room, that heavy lifting is already done.
The niche branding guarantees baseline alignment before you even say hello. You dramatically lower the risk of fundamental incompatibility.
And you can just focus on chemistry.
Exactly. But the choice of venue for that event, Dave & Buster's, points to an even broader trend, the rise of activity-based mixers.
The sources mention several of these. You have the beam hikers organizing difficult level wilderness hikes for singles, and you have Tuesday trivia nights at Cahaba Brewing.
Right.
I want to dig into this because why is an activity-based mixer fundamentally safer for your ego than just sitting at a table with a drink.
It comes down to a concept called diversified emotional stakes.
Diversified stakes. Explain how that works in practice.
Go back to our TSA line metaphor.
Okay.
If you endure the clipboard, the holding pen, the whistle, and the interrogation at a legacy event, your only reason for being there is romantic validation.
Right. You suffered through the ordeal purely to find a date.
So if you leave that event without a single match, how does your brain process the night?
It's a total failure,
Yeah.
a massive sunk cost. You wasted your evening and you feel worse about yourself than when you walked in.
But if you attend an activity-based mixer, you are diversifying your emotional investment.
Spreading the risk.
Exactly. If you go on a strenuous wilderness hike with the Birmingham hikers and you don't find your soulmate, the day is not a failure.
Because you still hike.
You still got a fantastic workout, you spent time in nature, and you accomplished a physical goal.
And if you go to Tuesday trivia at Cahaba Brewing and you don't secure a date, you still got to drink great local beer, eat tacos, and have fun answering trivia questions with the team.
The romance is allowed to emerge naturally as a secondary byproduct of a shared experience.
It takes all the pressure off.
You aren't forcing connection under the glare of a ticking timer. If it happens, it's a wonderful bonus. If it doesn't, the night was still objectively successful.
It completely drains the desperation out of the room. It restores organic discovery.
It brings back the fun.
So, if we pull all of this together, from the Reddit horror stories of boundary collapse to the tiered pricing of Speed Mingle to lock and key props and difficult hikes, the picture is incredibly clear.
What's the verdict?
Birmingham singles, and really singles everywhere, are staging a full-scale rebellion against the industrialized, invasive TSA line of dating.
They are completely rejecting the administrative coldness, the holding pens, and the forced vulnerability.
Exactly. Whether it's through the heavily engineered, tech-enabled safety of the SmartSync app and the digital bouncer, or the clever gamification of a padlock at Fairway Social, or the diversified stakes of Trivia Night, people are demanding more.
They want to be treated like adults.
They are demanding environments that respect their time, protect their egos, and actually give them a chance to connect like human beings.
It's a really positive shift. But looking at all of this innovation, it does leave us with a deeply complicated final question to consider.
Oh.
Well, the entire industry right now is hyper-focused on engineering the friction out of human connection. We are building these perfectly streamlined, pain-free environments.
Right, the safe spaces.
We have digital bouncers to save us from face-to-face rejection. We have anonymity shields to stop social media stalking. We have curated cards so we don't have to invent conversation.
It is the ultimate, frictionless, perfectly safe experience.
But by doing all of that, we have to ask ourselves, are we simultaneously engineering the unpredictable, chaotic magic of serendipity out of romance entirely?
Oh, wow.
If we methodically remove every single ounce of risk, do we also dull the reward? Can true cinematic love actually exist without at least a little bit of friction?
That is a heavy thought. If you eliminate the chance of crashing and burning, maybe you also eliminate the spark. That is absolutely something to think about the next time you find yourself standing in line, waiting to hand over your ID or your heart to a stranger with a clipboard.
Thank you for listening
and watching on the new Speed Mingle TV network.